Rules for farm use vehicles going into effect on July 1st, when the unofficial farm use tags will no longer be acceptable. As of July 1st, placards must be displayed on the front and back of those vehicles at all times, and misuse is punishable by a fine. Farm use vehicles can be used exclusively for agriculture and horticultural purposes and not operated on public highways except for specific purposes like transporting produce or livestock. The placard requirements do not apply to farm machinery, farm trailers, or semi-trailers.